To make a chessboard, there's a few important steps that we need to follow. Let me show you. First thing I'm going to do is going to hide my camera and my lamp, get them out of the way, and then I'm going to smash this cube down. So I'm going to put my cursor out here, scale S and Z to scale on the Z axis. Now you don't want to go too far because you'll go inside out, but come down and flatten it pretty good. It could have a little depth, that's fine. This is going to be one square on our chessboard. So now if I go to a top view, 7 on the keypad, I could go into ortho view to get it flat, but I'm actually going to stay out of ortho view because I want this grid here, because that's about the size of the chessboard that I want. So the first thing, I'm going to want to duplicate this many times to simulate each square on the chessboard. But I'm only going to do half. The other half I'll just use a simple cube to do. So to get that, to copy that, I'm going to duplicate it, Shift D on the keyboard. Now it moves freely here, but if I hold down Control on the keyboard, it snaps to the grid. So I'm going to use that grid to help me out here. So I'm going to click right here, 2 squares away. I'm going to duplicate it again, Shift D, and hold down Control. I'm going to place it right there. I'm going to grab this one, Shift D, hold down Control, and there. I want 4 per line. Now they're a little bit off the grid, so I'm going to get my border select, B, and select all of them, and G to grab and move them around, and hold down the Control key again, snap them back to the grid. Right there. Now I'm going to duplicate those since I've got them all selected, Shift D, and hold down Control, snap them right there. Now select them all, B for border select, grab all of them, Shift D, hold down Control. I'm still not in the right spot on my grid. So border select, select them all, G to grab, Control to move. I'm going to place them right there. Now I've got half of my chessboard, and so I'm going to got them all selected, so Shift D and hold down Control, and there's all the squares that I need, the opposite squares, I guess, the half of the squares, and I'm going to select them all one more time, B. This is important that I get the camera and the lamp hidden so that I'm not selecting those and duplicating them with the cubes. So now that I've got a lot of cubes here, it's kind of a mess if I have that many cubes, so I'm just going to join them. Once I have them all selected, I'm going to come over here to my menu and select Join, and it makes it 1 cube. Now my origin point was on one of the cubes that I had selected originally, and I don't want that there. If I ever have to rotate it, it's going to rotate from that pivot point or origin point. So I want to get that to the middle of the grid, and I'm going to add another cube here, but before that I'm going to put the origin point there. If your cursor is not in the middle, it's out here somewhere, you can just do a Shift S and get that cursor back to center right there, Shift S. Also that's in Object, Snap, that's the Shift S. Now that I've got my cursor there, I want my origin point to be there. So I go to Object and Transform and put my origin to 3D cursor. That way if I need to rotate, it rotates and pivots from the center spot. Okay, now that my cursor's in the center, I'm going to add a cube. So Shift A to add a mesh, and I'm going to grab a cube. Now for this one I am going to go into ortho view, so 5 for ortho view, and I'm just going to S scale it and bring it out just a little bit beyond the other cubes that I have. Now it's a huge cube because I scaled it, so I'm going to drag that down below the other pieces. I'm going to come down quite a bit below actually, because when I scale it, I'm going to go back to a 7 view. That's pretty good, but I'll scale it. I'm going to put a little, I could put it like this, but I'm going to put a little border on it. Most chessboards have a little extra border on it just to be a little fancy. And at this point, once you have these 2 cubes, in fact let me scale it down on the Z-axis so it's not so big, and I'm going to give it a little more depth than the other cubes. That's going to be the depth of my chessboard. And I'm going to select the original cubes that I had, and I'm going to hit on the keypad, it's the period. Or it also says delete on it. So it's between the 0 and the enter key on the keypad, not the numbers on the top, but on the right side. So hit that, it zooms in to one spot. Actually it zoomed out, but that'll allow me to zoom in. And I'm going to drag that down into the cube as far as I can go without it disappearing. So I'm not going to get it perfect, but I'm going to get it pretty close. It's just so it pops up barely above the other cube, and that's what I want, to make it as flat of a surface as I can. Okay, I'm going to select both of those and drag them up above the grid so the grid's not in my way. And there's the basics of the chessboard. Now, it looks like they're different colors, but if I rendered it, it would all be the same color. So I would, of course, need to go and change my materials. I can just change the colors. So one of them's, maybe a light tan, and the other is darker. Maybe a dark brown. That way they will be different colors when I render it. And of course, oh, black. Didn't want that. My computer's being really slow here. I just want to get to the dark brown. Okay, so once I've got that, then it's got different colors. So that makes it a little bit more accurate of a chessboard. Wow, my computer is really slow here. Okay. There we go. Then I can do whatever I want, whatever else I want to it on the side to make it a little more fancy. I can even, which is really a fun thing, get a texture, wood texture, a lighter wood texture for the middle squares, and a darker wood for the outer, or however I want to do it, just so they're different. I could also get pictures of marble and do a marble chessboard and map them that way, and that's really fun to do. But those are the basics of making a chessboard. As long as you get the squares, use the grid, and use your top view to get them exactly in the right positions. If not, it's going to just not look very nice if we manually try and place them in the right spot. So that's the basics of the chessboard.